Great to have you, Ken and Glenda, with us
Thank
at
you.
Harvest City Church this weekend. We make some noise. It's kind of surreal to have you here, really. It's been a dream of us.
We were in the car the other night after we left you going, I can't believe they're here.
I can't believe it.
We're so honored.
I need to go home and make my bed.
Yeah, that would be good. That was one thing that never sunk in with you.
Let us know how we can help you.
But it's such a joy to have you guys here at our church this weekend. Of course, you're there for the marriage weekend and the couple of meetings we have. But why don't you tell everyone who's watching this the first time you met me? Probably more Ken, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, we are so happy to be here as well.
Yes.
I mean, we've really been looking forward to this. We've loved you guys and been cheering you on for many years. So to get to come and see your whole family here is wonderful, spiritual family. Yeah. I'll never forget meeting you for the first time. Your dad had invited me to Trinidad to speak. It was a pastor's conference and some things, And so he wanted me to stay, with the family in your home. And he had asked you, I don't think he asked permission, but he had directed you to give up your room for me to sleep in your room.
Right.
And as I recall, you were about 4 years old at the time. But you remember it as being 6 years old?
Yeah, he sings 5, so we'll split it.
So
split
5,
the
okay,
difference.
so somewhere there. But you were quite little.
Yeah.
And so was your bed.
Your legs be dangling off.
I kind of hung over the end. But I was, and so we hit it off, So, and found out that you were interested in fishing.
Yeah.
So I was thanking you for letting me stay in your room, and I said, look, when you grow up, if you ever come to PVC, I promise you, I will take you fishing. And your eyes lit up, and so 15 years later,
we fulfill it. Yes,
you came, but then when you came to PVC, you reminded me.
Oh, did I?
Yes, you reminded me. You said, "Okay, here I am. Now you promised you'd take me fishing."
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't just rough around the edges; it was all over. So that's wow. Yeah. Wow, that's great memories. As we get older, it's people that you grew up with and memories are very precious, and you realize there's very few people that you know all your life or most of your life.
Yeah.
And you both played a huge part in Sarah and I's lives. But before we get into that, how did you guys meet? I don't know if you grew up in the same town, same neighborhood, or how did you meet?
We met at university, Earl Roberts University in the middle of America.
Right.
And we met in a worship band. And we traveled in that worship band for a year. And that's how
She
we
grew up
met.
in Kansas City in the middle of America, and I grew up in Oregon.
Right, okay.
So if we hadn't both gone to the same school,
Right.
Our paths never would have crossed.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we're both so grateful that the Lord took us to ORU at that same time so we could meet each other.
Wow.
So what drew you both to Portland?
Well, we traveled with this worship band up the West Coast from Southern California up to the state of Washington.
During the summer.
And during the summer. And on that tour, we met Dick Iverson at a youth camp.
Right.
And so anyway, Ken can tell you a little bit more about that meeting, which wasn't easy, but then was our introduction into Portland Bible College.
It's a story that Pastor Iverson always liked to tell.
Right.
Because, we were part of the Jesus People movement at that time.
Right.
And so he was very conservative. And we had actually, in Southern California, there was a guy in our group from ORU that was from Leonard Fox's church, which was associated with Dick Iverson. There was a bunch of churches on the West Coast called Revival Fellowship that all had common roots coming out of the Latter Rain movement back in the day. And so we had 1 week of the summer, we couldn't schedule anything. So we thought, well, we'll sleep on the beach and fast, we're Jesus freaks.
Ken had long hair and wore love beads.
Yeah, my hair was longer than hers,
students
and
still
all
wore
that.
jackets and ties.
Yeah.
So the Sunday before that week, we had nothing to do. We were at Leonard Fox's church, and he wanted somebody to preach. None of us ever had, and so he asked me to. So the group said, well, your dad's a preacher, so you preach. So I preached my first sermon that night.
Wow.
And Glenda, who I was very interested in, got filled with the Holy Spirit that night.
Wow.
So afterwards at his house, I proposed to her.
Wow, that
Because
quick.
that's all I was waiting for. It's like
Do you remember the year? What year was that?
1970.
1970.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and so then he asked us, he said, do you guys, have anything to do this week? And we said, no. And Pastor Fox said, well, we're having a youth camp up at Big Bear and we're short on counselors. Would your group come and be counselors at the camp?
Mm.
And we were like, okay, I guess we're not fasting, So we went as counselors to the camp, and all those churches in California all combined, Ernest Gentile and Leonard Fox and the Kiteleys from Oakland,
Right,
everybody, they all came together at this camp. So we were the counselors, and the two speakers were Dick Iverson from Portland and Kevin Connor on his first visit to America from Australia. He was the morning Bible teacher.
And Frank DiMaggio was a youth pastor there.
Amazing.
That was doing not good stuff in the weeds later.
So then we met Frank DiMaggio. We met for the first time at that camp. Well, Pastor Iverson was preaching against the rebellion of youth culture.
Wow.
And we didn't like his message at all. Like,
Right.
Wearing the peace symbol was, rebellious. Long hair was a sign of rebellion. And here we are, have long hair, wear the peace symbol. We're Jesus freaks. And he's preaching against rebellion, and we didn't like it. And the churches in California weren't quite as conservative. And so the teenagers really didn't like it either. So we fomented this rebellion in the cabins.
Wow.
And it got so bad that on one session when Dick was supposed to speak, we started a chant, "We want Kevin."
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
See, I thought I was a rebellious person, but
I
Oh, it was so bad.
Sorry.
So it was getting worse.
Wow.
And so on Wednesday, I called a meeting of all the pastors. I'm 19 years old.
you called me.
I called a meeting of all these great apostles and prophets. I didn't know who they were. And
Yeah.
they all gathered, and I said, I'm sure you've heard there's some unrest in the cabins among the kids. And I said, the problem is this guy from Portland. I said, he doesn't know anything about what God's doing with young people today. And if you let him keep speaking, I can't be responsible for what's going to happen, like I told them. I don't know why they didn't just nuke me on the spot, but they just said, okay, thank you. We got up to leave, and then I saw he was in the room, and I hadn't noticed him.
Oh.
As you were speaking.
Ernest Gentile was
sitting on
sitting.
the floor.
He was sitting on the floor, and Ernest Gentile's long legs were kind of hiding him a bit. So he got up and he started walking straight towards
Oh, my
me.
word.
Well, I start bracing myself because I'd had adults, correct me before, so I'm kind of bracing myself. Instead, he comes and just warmly takes my hand and says, "Ken, sorry about all this. Why don't, after the service tonight, let me buy you a milkshake and we'll talk about it." He was so nice. And I was bracing myself for him to, react. Well, that started the Holy Spirit just got into my heart. I went back into the service. He preached against rebellion all the harder. He said, "Let me draw you a picture of it on a blackboard." And he draws a picture of the side of a guy with long hair, and it looked just like Frank, who was sitting on the platform near the blackboard. And I'm pointing at Frank, and he's looking at me like, what's this? But the Holy Spirit really broke me. I went to the altar and just really, really broke me. And we talked afterwards. So he invited us later that summer to stop by Portland on our way up the West Coast. We were going to end up Spokane, where my parents were. And he didn't let us minister in the church or anything, but he took us out to dinner and was just so warm and kind. And so later we got married that fall in November, and then decided not to go back to ORU. They had shut down their ministry program, and we wanted to prepare for ministry. And then that friend from Leonard Fox's church in the meantime had gone to PBC. And he invited us to come visit after we got married. So January of 71, we went to PBC. So long story.
Wow. No, it's a good story.
The first time we're in Bible Temple, we're in the prayer room, and the pre-service prayer is so loud, and the men are on one side, the women are another. And so we pulled our chairs together in the middle. She grew up a Methodist, and it was freaking her out. She's crying like, this is so loud. What is all this, And so I can remember my first prayer in Bible Temple. I'm staring at the middle chair. I'm holding her hand. She's crying. And I said, "God, I don't know why you brought us here, but please protect us from all this heresy." That's the first prayer I prayed.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So that
story.
would have been on the property. Which property was that?
That would have been down on Gleason Street.
Gleason Street,
Yeah.
right, by the Templex.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
the temple.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
So quite a beginning.
Yeah. Wow.
We went for one semester to PBC, and I'm still in PBC.
You're still
I
in
never got
PBC?
out
Yeah.
50-some years later.
Wow. What a story. That's amazing.
Well, now you understand why it's easy for us to have grace for young people when they're struggling.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. You know, in our church, I was speaking a few weeks ago, and I recommended that to watch that movie, The Jesus Revolution.
Oh, yes.
And I mentioned that you guys and a lot of our teachers,
Yeah.
this is when they got saved. So that's same time as yourself.
Same time, yeah. In fact, in that movie, you remember the scene where they prayed over the car?
Yes.
We did that.
Really?
We had a car that died. We prayed over it.
Yes.
And it went 63 more miles.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So we identified with that movie very much.
Wow. So that's really good. So tell me about your family. What, like your...
Well, we have 2 adult children,
Mhm.
and you were in PBC with them, and we have 5 grandchildren,
Wow.
and yes, and 2 of those grandchildren, one of them just graduated from PBC, and one got married, and he will graduate eventually, and then we have 2 more that are coming to our college in the fall. And then they're all, we're so blessed that all of them are on fire for the Lord.
Yes.
They love Jesus.
Yeah.
They are worshipers of Jesus.
Mhm.
We are so blessed.
Wow.
And our son he and his wife pioneered a church in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And that's on the East Coast, away from us on the West Coast. And then our daughter and her husband went to Cambodia, and they were there for 16 years.
Yeah.
And then they've been back for about 4 years, and they're figuring out their next step, what they're going to do.
Yeah.
How did the grandchildren adjust with the Cambodian lifestyle and coming to America? I guess that'd be quite a jump.
Yeah.
In culture.
Yeah, it was, because they grew up there.
Right.
Our granddaughter, who will be a senior in high school this next year, was born in Singapore, actually.
Yeah.
But they're very Cambodian in terms of,
Right.
but they would come and visit, every 2 years. So they would kind of catch on a little bit. But it took them, I would say, almost the first year being back to really fully adjust.
Yeah.
However, being around PBC and the college students really helped to make it easier.
Sure.
Because they moved onto the campus and the college students just adopted them. And so they kind of finished, our grandson had just finished high school when they moved back, but the other 2 were 4 years younger.
Yes,
5 years younger. So I think being in the community that really embraced them really helped.
Right.
The
That's really
adjustment.
good.
And they just buoyed to the top and became leaders in the school.
Wow.
The 2 younger ones that were in the high school.
Wow.
And they won awards this year and everything. They were
fantastic.
prince and princess, and all of that, because they just were strong spiritual leaders.
Right.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're so blessed.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Must be really nice to be able to think you'll be teaching your grandkids at Portland Bible College.
That's so cool.
Who would have ever, from the Jesus freak to now, you would have thought the
Who would
blessing
ever
of the
thought?
Lord,
Yeah.
It's been so wonderful the last 4 years to have grandkids, and now 2 more coming.
Yeah.
And the youngest one, who will be another year, but she's already thinks she's a PBC student. So that's such a special blessing to have them.
Yeah.
And we never once told them we wanted them to come or thought they should
Right.
come. It was their decision, just like with our own kids. So what a blessing when it's something they really want to do, feel God's calling them to do. It's very special.
That's good.
Wow. So do you remember that moment when you give your heart to the Lord, when that was? Do you remember individually or?
You go first.
The very first time, I was a child and went to a neighbor lady's house for a little Bible study. I remember that and gave my heart to the Lord. But a more significant time when I was 15 years old, I went to a youth camp and really gave my heart to the Lord. And then another time, right after that, I think, or right before that, I was in a church service, which was very unusual for the Methodist church that I grew up in. But we had a guest speaker and he had an altar call. And I grew up in that church, and I thought that my parents, knew the Lord. My mother did. My dad didn't, but I didn't know that. He was such a wonderful man. Anyway, my dad and I went to the altar at the same time when I was 15 and gave our hearts to the Lord. And so that, for me, that was that. But the real, all I knew, I don't know what the Methodist Church is like here in England, but all I knew in my church growing up really was obey the 10 Commandments. That's about all I knew.
Right.
And so when I went to, when I was in my first year of college, I started dating a Pentecostal charismatic guy, and he would take me to his church on Sunday nights, and but he never explained anything to me. So I could feel the presence of the Holy Spirit, but he never explained to me what it was. And so at the end of that year, he told me it was God's will for him to marry another girl in another in a Bible college somewhere. And I thought, wow, okay. So I didn't know what God's will meant.
Right. Okay.
But all I knew was it caused me some pain, whatever that meant.
Sure.
But I had this hunger in my heart for more, for whatever that was in his church. So then I ended up going to ORU, and like I said, we met in a worship band, and then when I studied and read books about the Holy Spirit all year, that year in university, and I prayed. I'd sit in my room and pray, and just never quite broke through. And then when he preached his first sermon, I went to the altar and spoke in tongues for the first time. And then he proposed. I didn't know that's what he was waiting for. But anyway, and so, yeah, that was, so kind of stages, I think, as far as understanding. So I don't know, from God's perspective, if I got saved when I was a child, or when I was 15, but definitely my life did a huge change when I was filled with the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing.
My dad was a pastor, and so were both my grandfathers.
Really?
They were both Pentecostal ministers. My dad was as well. So obviously I grew up in church. So I had experiences with the Lord when I was, a child, and another one when I was about 12. And then really in an adult way, really became a Jesus freak. When the summer after I graduated from high school is when I really dedicated 100%, no matter what, no looking back kind of.
Right. Wow.
I remember your mom and dad living on the campus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For many years. Yeah.
Yes, I remember your dad. Actually, you may not know this, but I once fishing legally. I gave him a steelhead. I bought a steelhead.
Yes,
and I saw
I do
him,
remember that.
and I said, "Mr. Mormon, I want to give you the steelhead that I caught." And he goes, "You sure it's a steelhead, not a coho salmon?" I was like, "I think it's a steelhead." And then he goes, "You're right, it's a steelhead." But we have great memories of, you guys were like a blessing, because obviously, come from Trinidad. I didn't get the opportunity to go back home, and it was a new culture, America, because the Trinidadian culture is more British kind of culture, from the colony. So it was a different thing. And you guys, most people don't know this, but you opened up your home to myself, especially around Thanksgiving time. And I remember the first time taking Sarah, I said, "We're going to go to the Malmin's house for Thanksgiving." "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, it'll be fine." But so I wanted to thank you publicly for opening your home. And so Benji, I still call him Benji, but Ben and I would go up together, hang out in your hot tub, eat M&Ms, turkey, chill. It was such great memories for me. It's like those times for us were like the bestest days of our lives,
Wow.
And you guys played a huge part in helping shape those areas in our lives,
Well, we loved having you.
Yeah.
We could see your hearts towards the Lord, and it made it easy to, want to reach out to, invest in you, your passion for the Lord and your desire to grow and learn. And so it was a privilege for us, really.
Wow.
I want you to know that when I first met you, Pastor Chip, I could see the sparkle in your eye. And I know part of that was mischief, but what I really saw was a hot, fiery thunderbolt that would make a mark for Jesus and would make a difference. And you're doing it, and it's a privilege and an honor, to see you. And that's, I think, maybe because of I don't know how we really came to an impact in our lives with the Holy Spirit and with Jesus at a college age. We love college students, university students that we can see, and I could see in your eyes, you're going to make a difference for the King and the kingdom. And Sarah, I could see from the moment that I met you, a calm and a peace and when I first heard you sing in a PBC chapel, just that healing presence of the Lord. And I just want to affirm you. I believe that when you sing and when you lead worship, as it was then, I just felt a healing go over the student body. And I believe that that's probably still happening today over your congregation and different congregations that you minister to, just the Holy Spirit flowing in and flowing through you, and just his healing presence, healing hearts, as well as bodies.
Sure.
What a dynamic team you two are. And you have been. It was beautiful to see how the Holy Spirit brought you two together in college, and the balance of the two, fire and water, fire and calm and peace. And it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I could see even Pastor Chip, through your sense of humor, there's still a cloak of wisdom over that. You'd only go so far with your humor, and then honor, and probably in the way that your parents brought you up, just that honoring thing that is in you. It's so precious to us. And it's an honor for us to be here with you
Sure.
today because of what we saw in you when you were young, and then now to see where you are. So beautiful.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think the Lord's really blessed us, even during our time at PBC and after leaving and things like that, and where the Lord's brought us to now. And actually, we celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary last weekend.
Congratulations.
So it's been a ride, but it's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people, and I say this to our young people here, don't let your past don't determine your future.
That's right. Yeah.
And I say to them, it's a bit like a car. If you look at a car, it has a big windscreen and a tiny rearview mirror. And the reason why is where you're going is more important than where you come from.
That's right.
said.
And I think in PBC, for us, that was God brought us together from the islands, from Wales. God brought us, and we met there, a bit like how you guys met in All Robert, and God placed us on a pathway in there. So for us, it was like clearing a path for ourselves, and the ability and privilege we had to meet, sit with you guys and with Lanny, Bill Scheidler, the Wagas, these people were giants, Frank Damasio, Brother Dick. And for us now, I guess we didn't know how blessed we were until now, looking back, we really stand on the shoulders of giants, and just to honor you, just to have you there, it's a real joy. And part of this inheritance belongs to you. And we wanted you to know that as our teachers, our church, this may be the first time they get to see you, but you've already imparted to the church through us, and so it's a real joy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we all start crying,
Thank you.
let me ask you, so you went to Bible Temple. How did Bible Temple help shape you into who you are today? Because you talk about Dick Iverson took you out and he reached out to you in a kind way. What part did Bible Temple, and maybe even Brother Dick, what part did he play in your lives to shape you in what you're doing today?
Well, the Lord had birthed in him such a passion and love for the local church because he, in his younger years, was trying to become a traveling evangelist, like the faith healers, the 50s. And he had been a tent boy for T.L. Osborne and et cetera in Jamaica, if you've known his story. And he had lots of miracles through his ministry. He was famous in Northern Ireland for miracle crusades. But then his father and mother, who had started a church, fell ill, and they wanted him to take over, and he didn't want to. He didn't value pastoring. He didn't. And a prophet came and rebuked him in front of the congregation and pointed him in the chest, and standing in front of the congregation, the evil that is in your heart, you don't love the people, and And he so responded to that. And just, I've never known anyone in my life who loved the church more. And so we were Jesus freaks. We were really passionate about following Jesus and changing the world. But as you saw in that movie, the Jesus Revolution, the difference in the fruit that lasted from that movement and the fruit that was lost basically came down to two things. Did you get into the Bible, or did you just keep enjoying the spiritual experiences without biblical foundation? Did you get into the Word, and did you get into church?
Right.
So for us to go there and then to catch on to understanding, we love Jesus. What does Jesus love? He loves his church. He died for the church. He's building his church. It's his purpose in this age. And so catching the vision for the local church is, we can never be grateful enough, because it kind of saved us from going the way of other friends and acquaintances we had that never really got grounded in the Word or in the local church and didn't end up following the Lord. So I would say getting that passion for the local church and the passion for the Word, and also just the value of both the Word and the Spirit.
Right.
That you can't have one or the other. You know, there's been churches that are all Word and churches that are all Spirit, but it was always a both. We had one speaker who came once and said, if you have all Word and no Spirit, you'll dry up. If you have all Spirit and no Word, you blow up.
Yeah.
But if you have both the Word and the Spirit, you grow up. You know?
Yeah,
Never forgot that.
Yeah.
That was in the early 70s. And so those things just gave us roots and foundation. And obviously then the Lord called us just to stay and be a part of the church all these decades. And when all our friends were going out to plant churches, we had people asking us to go that would have been good tithers. Pick a city, we'll go with you. But the Lord spoke to us and said, somebody needs to stay and somebody needs to be a part of the pipeline. And so really our great privilege has been to be a part of a church that has stayed spiritually dynamic for multiple generations, which churches last a long time, but they die.
Yeah.
But our churches, we have young people today on Fire for Jesus whose great grandparents were founding members of the church on Fire for Jesus. It's been a privilege to not only love the church, but to see a church stay spiritually alive for more than one generation, because we're 50 some years in ministry now. What a privilege.
Wow.
But that was all birthed in us just in the very first months and years we were there with Dick and Edie Iverson. And then when Kevin Connor came from Australia, was also a spiritual father too.
Yeah. Wow. So, because obviously you stayed in PBC, you stayed in Bible Temple. We are PBC graduates, so we're a little bit biased, and you could be biased as well. But there'll be people watching this who probably think, I should have gone to PBC. I wish I could have. And there's lots of avenues. What do you think are the benefits for a young person? Like my daughter wants to go to PBC, and our nieces want to go as well. What are the benefits for a young person choosing PBC today or Bible school? What would you say?
Well, the benefits are many.
Yeah.
But some of them are they're so transformational and they're so life-building. The Bible relates to every area of life. And to take the Bible seriously enough that we'd actually study it full time. Think of all the people that spend years getting multiple degrees in other fields.
Right.
And the value of that is important, whether it's medicine or law or, engineering, whatever. I mean, the results of that in terms of the fruit of their endeavors are worth all of that time and energy to build that knowledge base and foundation. Well, how much more when you're trying to have eternal fruit?
That's right.
And we just take it for granted and say, well, you got a couple of verses, that'll work. Well, no, not really.
Not really.
And so a lot of people care to make a difference in people's lives, but they don't have the Bible answers for them. And so there's the knowledge of the Word piece, which is really worth the time and effort in and of itself. But more importantly is the Word being made flesh.
Yes.
Where what happens in our kind of Bible college is that it's not just knowledge for knowledge's sake. It's the Word that you're going to live and will transform who you are.
Yeah.
And so you become an example of what you're going to try to teach and share with others, whether in ministry or in lay ministry, or extending the kingdom in some career. You get it into you learn to live it. So the Bible college atmosphere becomes this live-in lab.
Yes.
Where you're trying to apply the things you're learning, and okay, how does this apply to me, and how do I love like Jesus? How do I live like Jesus? And then there's the community aspect. So you're with a lot of young people your age, many of which will be friends for life, like what you've experienced with our son and many others. And there's a synergy that happens, and there's an accelerated growth. So what we see happen, and we're really addicted to watching this, is it's like condensed spiritual life, where so much growth happens so fast and so strong and deep and solid. And then we just watch, like in your lives, for decades, as the implication of everything God did in that relatively few years just keeps growing and growing and getting passed on to others. So it's really hard to totally estimate the value.
Right.
That is, if you come with a heart really wanting Jesus and really wanting to grow and change, then it really works. If you don't, then it's not a good idea.
I think I was saved at PBC. Honestly,
it's a true story.
I think I was, because I don't know if you remember, I was kidnapped just before I went to PBC. My dad had to get me out of the island for different things, and I remember sitting by the flagpole. Do you remember the flagpole right outside your office? Playing my acoustic guitar. Most people watching this in our church don't know I played the guitar, but and singing Bob Dylan, "Knocking on Heaven's Door," and really just being that sort of edgy, we would say, kind of person, like you had mentioned. But the Lord had really brought me somewhere to tap into me, and I think, listening to the story now, I'm beginning to pull the pieces together, like, because you guys came out a similar kind of thing, and people around you, how God can take anybody who is willing and available and put themselves on the altar. And PBC was my altar, where God comes and he opens your life. And I never forget it. There was my most dangerous prayer at PBC is I say, Lord, break me. And that was my worst, worst dangerous. Every time I went to chapel for about 6 weeks, 6 months, 8 months, I cried like someone had died in my family. I really wept. Soon as the first note, I never was a crying kid, right? I grew up, well, you know how I grew up, right? So crying wasn't in my radar, but the Lord really, really broke me and changed me in that way. And it's the result of PBC and that culture that you talked about, that confinement of God brings you and he puts you on that altar. We have many professionals in our church, like you mentioned, many professionals. And I asked them this question. I said, tell me, when you went to university, do you remember when you studied? Yep. Do you use the stuff that you got then now? Oh, no. We do. Up to today, 30 years later, we're still using our PBC materials. We still have our books. We crack them open, still go through our Strongs, still go through. And I don't think you ever stop learning. And the tools that you guys gave us, they won't put in a shelf with a sign over it. This is when we use it. We still use it to today.
That's awesome.
And basic doctrine, women in ministry, all the classes you taught us, we still use today. And I really wanted to kind of encourage you that although we've come and graduated in 96, and some took a bit longer to graduate, it's still effective to today. And those tools are really, really helping us. And it's helped you a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was one point, I think it was around my second year, when the Lord just begins to deal with you and chip away those things. And I remember I went home for, I think it was the summer or Christmas, and my mum was concerned. She was like, do you think you need to stay home, for a semester because it was the work the Lord was doing in me. It was like obvious on my face, I guess. But I knew if I had stayed home for that, I would have missed out on the steps that the Lord had for me. So being there, we learned a lot. Our faith grew, and we knew what it is to, just give it all to the Lord. And just, I have a story. I was going to save it for the church, where one time there was something that kicked off at home, and I remember I ran straight to your office. I don't know if you remember this, and I was like, Sister Glenda, this is happening at home, and and I was telling you, you just got up from your desk. You went to your sofa and you said to me, come on, let's kneel and pray. And I was so shocked. I was expecting this, this godly counsel, but you led by example.
Yes.
And now I do that all the time. I tell my kids, I tell the church, if there's an issue going on in someone's life, have you prayed about it? Have you taken it to the Lord? Because it was such an impact. It impacted me so much. And now I pass that simple illustration,
awesome.
But God really did something there and used you guys as an amazing examples to us,
Thank you.
But just changing gears slightly, because I know that we celebrated 29 years of being married. And
before you change gears, could I just add a couple things? Thank you.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think, as far as the foundational laying of why come to PBC, what would be a benefit? I think for young adults, they are hearing things as a young adult in a different way than they did as a teenager.
Right.
For example, in the last year or so, I had a student say, I've never, ever heard any teaching from a biblical perspective on why I should have my dating life the way I should have it.
Sure. Right.
Why all the purity stuff. I've never heard it taught. Probably she has, but never heard it from a young adult perspective. And she realized there were some things that had gone on that shouldn't have gone on, but now she understood from a biblical perspective as a young adult. So foundations being laid is one thing that I think is beneficial for young adults, but also for those who may do PBC online as adults, it puts them, when they take classes like Basic Doctrine, Life of Christ, etc., it puts them on the same page with what their pastors are teaching.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, confirmation. The pastor is saying this, you're saying it from a biblical perspective, and it's very team building, I think, too. So great benefits for young adults to step into adulthood maybe before and we've had many students who've gone on, maybe taken the first 2 years of PBC, gone on to be lawyers or doctors or whatever, but that foundation for why they believe what they believe as not just a youth growing up in their family, but now they're making the decisions and they're in a safe place to make those decisions. And then when they hit the rough bumps in life, what is so popular now, as you would well know, is for young people to deconstruct their faith.
Yes.
They get a wound in the church or they get a wound in their personal life and they begin to step away from the church and then end up deconstructing their faith and walk away from Jesus. How does that happen? And hopefully these foundation stone blocks, help to, we have seen it. It helps them to, no, I stay tied to Jesus and I stay tied to the bride, to the church. And so to me, those are great benefits.
Yeah.
So sorry to not.
No, I'm glad you mentioned
go
that.
on.
No,
Just
that's
wanted
fine.
to say that.
No, that's great. Because we've been bigging you up in church for a while now. The church is looking forward to you coming to do one of the things is Marriage Works, is what we call it. We do it once a year at Harvest City Church. I was just wondering, we've been married for over 50 years.
54 years
54
now.
years. If there's some things that you can share that have sustained you through those, maybe along the road you've had a few bumps, and how the Lord has kind of helped you and sustained you through those 54 years.
I think people who say they've never had any bumps are lying.
Well, obviously we get asked that a lot since we're so old and we still love each other. And it's our privilege to, minister together all these decades. I would say that, and it's not just a pat answer, but our relationship started with Jesus right in the middle.
Sure.
And it's continued that way. And so the Jesus first, I think the best way to have a great marriage is to be great Christians.
Sure.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you become like the Lord and the fruit of the Spirit is in your life, you're going to get along.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you're going to get through the difficulties. You're going to have faith when there's, when life wants to rip faith out of your grasp. You're going to love when you'd rather be selfish. You're going to
sure.
forgive when you need to. You're going to,
Yeah.
like all the fruit of the Spirit. So if you're really a Jesus first kind of person, then it's easy to be the kind of person you need to make marriage work, which is you're a servant and you're humble and you're loving and you honor and defer, etc. But on a pragmatic way, like how do you make that work? One, when something comes that wants to get between you, you just don't let it get between you.
Sure.
And we have a saying where we lean in instead of lean apart.
Right.
So when pressure comes, like I imagine pressure as being like a giant wedge, coming, and the point of it tries to get between you. And whether it's financial pressure or relational problems or extended family or career or, whatever the pressure in life is, if you let the point of the pressure get between you and it starts pushing you apart as it comes into your life. But if you lean close enough, it'll push you both in the same direction, closer to each other.
Right.
So when we've had major challenges in our life, we've followed that. It's like we lean into the Lord first, and that enables us to lean into each other and not allow the pressure to come between us.
Right.
And I think that we've continued to go to school on each other.
Yeah.
Continue to learn your spouse. Because just when you think you got them figured out, they're a decade older and they change. I think husbands find that with their wives, maybe the other way around. So continuing to learn each other, their personality types, their, what makes them tick. Anyway, and continuing to do that. Forgive when you need to forgive.
Yes,
And release what you need to release. I think keep the big things big and the small things small.
Sure.
And again, learn your spouse so that you know what is big to them, because what's big to them may be small to you, and vice versa.
Sure.
So those are some of the things.
I would think probably something that even Christian couples don't exercise enough is you don't expect your spouse to meet all your needs.
Right.
You get your needs met by the Lord.
That's
so
good,
then you bless your spouse.
Wow.
Right.
So we'll talk about this more in the marriage time, and but I think if you're expecting them to be Jesus to you, they can't be Jesus. They're not as good as Jesus. And so when your spouse disappoints you, or when life disappoints you, you got to go to the Lord, and you got to let Him be your first resort, and you get what you need from Him, instead of trying to get out of each other what you think you deserve from each other. Then your relationship becomes one of passing on to each other what the Lord has blessed you with. So if you're being cranky and a bad attitude, well, go pray and speak in tongues and get your heart sorted out with the Lord's. Don't take it out on your spouse. So like I say, the better Christians you are, the easier it is to have a really wonderful marriage.
Wow.
You have to let your spouse be who they are, and not try and mold and shape them into your image.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he hears from God in a different way than I hear from God. And I can't expect him to pray the way that I pray.
Right.
I find that in so many marriages, that's what couples are trying to make you look like I look, as far as in spiritual ways and soul ways. And it's like, nope, I need to let you be who you are, right?
Yeah.
And even in what refreshes your soul. Well, for Ken, what refreshes his soul is to be outdoors, and to take in through golf. That's what he does. So it's like, why would I rob him of that when he's going to be a better husband, a better father, when he gets out and refreshes his soul that way? And for me, it's different. Golf is just, no, that's not going to make it. It's not going to happen for me. I might walk along, but
she would lose her salvation.
We almost did that when we learned to ski. So we almost lost our salvation.
Well, Sarah used to go fishing with me until we got married, and she stopped fishing with me. So I wonder what she was trying to catch, the fish.
Well, I got the ring. So.
So all of a sudden she's like, "No, you go fishing. It's fine." So, you used to go fishing with me.
And you gave her babies, so
yes, that's right.
That's it.
PBC. over the years. How long has PBC? Is 50 years?
Over 50,
Over
58
50.
years right now.
And you've been in it from day dot?
No.
Okay.
No, it started in 1967.
67.
And
right.
we went as students in 71. I
Right.
started teaching in 73 when I graduated.
Wow. So how is, because you've seen it for a good chunk of it then over the years.
Almost all, yeah.
How has it changed then to now? What are some of the changes you've seen in the needs of the young people who are coming in? Also, there'll be technology change and the way you teach,
Sure,
the way you impart. How has it changed from then to now? Because you've remained very relevant, I must say. You're very much on the pulse of what's
Thank you.
there. You're still very relevant. I love still listening to you preaching after all these years. You still, And so, what has changed from then to now?
Well, the culture has changed in external ways.
Right.
Like it used to be more conservative, and you had to wear a tie, and that kind of
The
stuff.
dress.
So
now we wear jeans.
So the stuff that doesn't matter as much has changed, of course. But what matters most hasn't changed.
Right.
But how it's expressed has changed.
Okay.
So the word hasn't changed. The focus on the presence of the Holy Spirit, the worship being dynamic. I mean, we're singing different songs now than 50 years ago, but the presence of God and the prophetic atmosphere and all of that is the same. So PBC is actually keeps improving, actually. And one thing that students who are there in past years don't realize is it's not the same as it was.
Sure.
Now, the things they appreciated most are still the same.
Right.
Teachers that are pastors at heart, that hasn't changed. We don't just have scholar teachers that only care about their ideas and don't really care about pastoring students. So there are things that have made PBC special. Those things have remained. Okay. They're being expressed maybe in more contemporary ways. But the students today they're on fire for Jesus. They want to grow and learn. The staff really care. We lean in and really disciple them and watch them change and grow and learn. But one of the things that we've done with our staff that I've led through the years is about every 3 or 4 years, we feel like the students have really changed that are coming in.
Right.
So what we do is we regularly go to school on our students. We study them to see, okay, how do they learn best? What's important to them? Yeah. What things has culture put into them that needs to get reprogrammed?
Right. Yeah,
And so we try to go to, because we're there to serve the students.
Yeah, sure.
And we may be really old, they're really young, but we're there to serve them and to help them grow and learn and change. And so I appreciate the compliment that you feel like we stayed relevant, but that's because we study them. We want to speak their language. We want to connect with where they are, because we can't move them along in their growth if we don't connect to where their starting point is. So that's something that we've led our staff through. Now, of course, we have a new leadership with Simon, who you went to school with.
Yes,
He's now our new president. And so I got to train my new boss.
And so we've been studying Gen Z for the last few years.
Okay.
And Simon freshly has the staff reading books and studying, preparing for us to dialogue together about Gen Z again. Okay. But we're just a couple of years away from Gen Alpha that are coming up. And so then that's going to be, and I'm reading a book now that's relevant to many generations, and another book on Gen Z, but getting ready in those already for Gen Alpha as well. I think when we came, it was more do what we tell you to do.
Sure.
And don't ask questions. I know there was a phase when, Sarah, you referred to the Women in Ministry class, and Pastor Chip, you did as well. And just, I was teaching this class and I wanted to understand about women in ministry more. And I was asking the pastor's wife questions, and she would ask her husband the questions, and Glenda wants to know. And I wanted to know because I wanted to understand. I didn't want to be a feminist.
Sure.
That's what was going on then in our generation, was feminism. I didn't want that, but I wanted to understand, what, can women do? Anyway, he would get really annoyed and say, why is she asking these questions? And she would say, Dick, she's asking because of the girls. the girls want to know, and so I think we've kind of transitioned, and he did. He was gracious, and we ended up dialoguing, and the elders made decisions and studied the word and stuff about women and their involvement in ministry. But then I think now we've kind of come from just, and there was even, some illustrations on how in the military it's salute the fountain, don't ask questions, just do whatever, you're told to do. And we needed that as we transitioned from just accepting the fun of Jesus, fun, that might be the wrong word, but the brotherhood or whatever of accepting Jesus as Savior into accepting him as Lord. And so we probably needed that, the just, yes, sir. But now I think with the generation, it's more like, come now, let us reason together.
Right.
You've got questions. Let's talk about your questions.
Right.
And yes, there are times when you need to go to chapel and cry it out because you need to make him Lord. Yes. That truth has not changed.
Right.
As Ken mentioned, the principles have not changed, but perhaps the methodology a little bit is a little different.
Yeah.
We had the privilege, Sarah and I, for the last 2 years, recently speaking at chapel and ministering to some of the students. And you're right, the heart of it, they just like how we were, just wrapped in a different package with different burdens and concerns. And I love the way how PBC has added courses that deals directly like with stuff like identity and how do you face all these challenges that today are like big deals in the world. And the way you guys and the faculty at PBC has made those decisions to actually tackle it head on, but scripturally, not just from an opinion, but what does the Bible actually says about this topic? And can you be a good believer in the Lord and do these ways? And for me, like I said, I'm biased because PBC is our roots, but I think it's probably the best college in the world. Well, I know there are others who would say differently, but for us, it was, and I guess each generation needed a certain type of hammering.
Right.
For us was the shirt and tie, cleanly shaved. I remember, you may not remember this. I asked Glenda, I said, would you come help me match my ties to my... Do you remember this?
No,
you don't? Okay. So you came into... I had to shout, lady in the dome! Lady in the dome!
That's still the same.
It's still exactly... Yeah, and you came into our room, my room, and you've like, okay, lay out all your shirts. This tie goes with that. That tie goes with this. This tie goes with that.
Still did that this morning.
But equally, those were... You showed interest in like what you did, because back then for us, our church in Trinidad was a small church, and same with Sarah. And then, you guys are elders with Brother Iverson, and such a huge honor. But you would take the time just to come into our room and match my shirt tie with the shirt, right, and right trousers, and like yourself to say, let's go fishing. We went with Ben, and those are memories that like burned into my mind. That even when we have difficulty, believe it or not, pastors have difficulty in churches. It gets us through it because we thought, if people cared enough for us, there's something in us.
Yes.
That is, they put their time to invest in us, so we can't quit.
Right.
And those little things that you did, and you did great things as well, but those little things you did had really put an impact in us, preparing us for our journey today. And I'm sure it's probably the same you do now with your students.
That's amazing.
Well, and I want to say that even though the previous generation was just do it and don't ask a lot of questions, they parented us. And I am grateful to say that Sister Iverson and also Sister Connor, I didn't know how to be a minister's wife. That's not, who my parents were. And so they mothered me, and Brother Dick and Brother Connor, they fathered Ken, so they parented as well. And I hope that comes down. Scripture says you have many teachers, but few fathers. So it's, that's what makes life change, in people is that care.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. So, what brings you the most joy looking at this time now, looking back, that history that you brought is so rich, but what brings you the most joy when you meet your ex-students or C students? What is the kind of thing that brings you the most?
Well, it goes beyond just seeing the fruit of their life. It's seeing, like, you don't know how good of a parent you are until you see your grandkids.
Okay.
So that happened for us naturally, like seeing our grandkids love Jesus. It's incredibly fulfilling. Our own children loving Jesus is very fulfilling, but then that multiplies because seeing my son become a great dad or our daughter become a great mother. So I think it's seeing the fruit multiply and seeing how it's passed on from generation to generation, because then you realize it wasn't just the pressure from one generation to another and they sort of conformed, but actually the seeds were imparted so that keeps producing more fruit, more fruit, more fruit. Like Paul said to Timothy, for the generations. So that is just incredibly fulfilling for us, not only in our own family, but in PBC particularly. Like the last few years, probably at least a fourth up to a third of the incoming freshman class are from alumni kids, kids. In other words, their parents went to PBC and now they want to come to PBC. Last night, I accepted 2 new students for this fall, and both their parents were in PBC, 20 some years ago. So, and then when they come to PBC, they come already. It's like we have a head start with them.
Yeah, sure.
They already kind of know us. They respect us. They know their parents respect us. So we get a head start even, and then they tend to pull the rest of the new students along because it's like, no, these people really care. They're worth listening to, So it has kind of accelerated the fruitfulness for us. But seeing the fruit going from generation to generation, naturally and spiritually, it's just priceless. I mean, every day we just say to each other how blessed we are. We have close to 7,000 graduates now ministering in over 60 nations.
Wow.
Amazing.
And it's like we have friends all over the world. And there's something about PBCers when they meet each other, even if they didn't go to school together. They might be a decade apart in age, but you meet somebody else who went to PBC and there's a certain DNA. There's a spiritual family DNA that you have an instant connection. That's priceless.
I would say that, we've already met some of your elders and leaders, and we see that, in you. It's a blessing to see their humility and their love for the word and their love for Jesus. That's our greatest joy, is to see, the fruit that you're bearing. And also our greatest joy is on opening day, the new students coming and seeing those connections. And
Wow.
It's great. It's
good.
So how do you, balance, because you got your kids that I know pretty well, Sarah and I know them very well. How would you encourage pastors, leaders, people watching this, the importance of balance in ministry and family? Because I think that's sometimes where we can get it wrong, where it's all ministry. Most of the time it's all ministry, very little family. I very rarely met most family and no ministry. Normally it's
true,
How do you balance?
So I do want to say, to intro into that our greatest joy is our children, our family, our children and our grandchildren. Ken alluded to that, because they do all love the Lord. Balancing marriage and family for us, it's different in every season. When our children were younger, one of the things that our predecessors taught us is get them involved.
Right.
And so we got our kids involved, and we see our kids getting their kids involved.
Right.
And that's part of the reason they love the Lord and they love the church, is because they've been involved. And you don't, it's okay if they know once in a while when things are tough, but they don't need to know all the details, And again, maybe balancing with the age that they're in as to how much they know and what they know. But we balanced it too by always, at heavy times of ministry, like conferences or whatever, to encourage them that there's to use an analogy, is like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And so to, at the end of the busyness, that because they're sacrificing, either they're with a babysitter or they're having to work more in the church and serve more, that we'll take a day off at the end. We're going to spend more time together at the end, or whatever. So giving them a hope and a joy, at the end of the busyness too.
We called it balancing seasons of sacrifice, family sacrifice with family rewards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd always made a big deal out of vacations or special time together, because there were times where we are so busy because the cycle of school, there's these peak times and then there's down times. Sure. And so, but when we started out, I didn't do very good at this. My perspective was wrong. I had just graduated. I was 21. They were desperate for teachers, so they asked me to start teaching. And then our family is just starting, and our kids are little. And I had a wrong perspective about this, which I'm so grateful the Lord corrected, because I saw the two, family and ministry. I really saw them as like two teams of horses pulling me in opposite directions.
Right.
And I felt confused. I felt like I can't be great at both, because I'm every year Pastor Iverson would give me more work to do, and he just liked to say, young men need to be stretched. And I wanted to go into his office and say, is that enough? So I struggled in those first years because I separated them too much in my mind. I viewed ministry and family as two opposite things, and I needed to kind of switch back and forth. And so we actually took the Connors and Iverson away on a retreat to ambush them, to get them to not give us so much work to do. Some of us young couples, and I was kind of one of the spokesmen. But they shared with us what was genius, and we coined the phrase integrate, don't isolate. Right. Because I had viewed the two as I'd been isolating them. Like it's okay, this is family time. Okay, this is ministry time, and they're opposite, and they have to be separate. Now you do have to have quality time for each, and you can't totally. But what they shared is how they would blend the two at times. As she said, they got their kids involved. Kevin Connor, while he's writing his commentaries, on Romans and Revelation, etc., his daughter Sharon was a little girl, and he had this makeshift study out in the backyard with like a corrugated tin roof and a pressboard bench and a kerosene heater, and his wife would sit and knit in a rocking chair, and he would be writing a commentary on the book of Romans, and his daughter would be on a stool putting curlers in the back of his hair. And he shared that as, instead of saying, hey, I'm studying the word, get away, integrate. The Iversons shared how they would, when Dick was traveling a lot, how Leedy and the girls would take him to the airport, and they would pray together and send him. Right. And then when he would come back, he would report to them before the elders even. In other words, and then he would take them one at a time on trips. In other words, they just shared all these illustrations of how you don't isolate them from each other, but find ways to weave them together.
That's very good.
Now, each has to have its own integrity. Yeah. And that, I think that saved me, because my perspective was too much isolating them rather than integrating them. And so we started applying that in a variety of ways along the way through our life. And the fruit of it turned out to be really great, whereas the direction I was headed in my mentality, I think, would have been very destructive.
Right. Oh, that's very good. Very good. Well, I think it would be good to kind of talk a little bit about what do you do to relax? I mean, we're talking about so much intense, good valued things, but everyone needs to kind of unstring their bow. This is a saying I got from John Wesley. I don't know if you know it, where he was preaching heavily and he's sitting relaxing, and someone say, "You hypocrite, Mr. Wesley, you will talk about evangelism and preaching." And he says to him over the fence, every great hunter needs to unstring their bow so it'll become effective for the next hunt. Yeah. And I think downtime is important to be able to regather your thoughts and just get strength and time together. So what do you guys do to relax, whether it's together or alone? I think you already alluded to golf, but what else? What do you guys do?
The Sabbath principle, right? We need that on a regular basis.
Yes.
Every family's different. We have And I think releasing other people to be who they are is key, because we have friends who are in the ministry who always invited other people along with them on their vacations.
Right.
For us, we felt like we were so busy in the ministry all the time that when we had family vacations, we needed to focus totally on our kids.
Right.
Sure.
And so we made family vacations about them. And then we also would do things like spring break together, other times, or the light at the
Right.
end of the tunnel. And we made that a focus on them,
Sure.
on our kids. And so anyway, but I think, for Ken, it was racquetball when he was younger, and then it was golf. For me, it's walking and getting out. We learned how to do things together and then release each other to do things separately.
Sure.
So for me, it's reading and walking, and for Ken, it's other things.
we enjoy hiking together,
Mm.
and obviously where we live, there's plenty of
Oh,
scenic
lovely
hikes and
places.
things,
Yeah.
So there's things that we do together that, like, we like going to bookstores together. We like walking together. We go on dates. We go see a movie, or so there's things like that. And so now with our kids, we always called it making happy memories.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, when the kids are grown and gone, then we still want to make happy memories together.
Yeah.
So, like, whether we're traveling or whether we're just enjoying an evening at home, with not thinking about ministry. For me, golf was something I'd never played. As when I was young, it was always baseball and basketball. But because I lived in a small logging town up in the mountains of Oregon, where I took you fishing, when I would get out in the woods, which in my teen years, that's where I was. So I was always hunting and fishing and out in the forests, giant trees and big mountains. And so to me, there was that relaxed feeling. So then we're in Portland, a city, and I'm still playing, baseball and basketball sports, and stuff. But the first time I played golf, I was 25 years old.
Right.
And Mike Heron, who grew up on a golf course, took me to play. And we went to this course that was lined with the giant trees.
Right.
And I got that same relaxed feeling that I
Yeah.
had as a teenager, being out in the forest a lot. So I think that's what first got me into golf, was just the mental relaxation and the challenge of it. And it's the only sport I can still play at my age, So that's something that helps me, because when I play golf, I'm not thinking about anything except golf, because you have to, otherwise it's hard to find a ball, But so we have both. We have things we do individually, and then we have things that we enjoy doing together, and then with other friends. Like, I've got golf buddies, and we'll travel and play golf together. Couples that we travel with now.
Nice.
So the guys go golfing, the women go shopping.
Nice.
Sounds a good.
So retail therapy
That's
is a good thing.
Retail therapy.
It's very good.
Well, I think the way you coined it is really good, because sometimes the danger is you think, well, we got to do things together all the time. We're very different. I'm outdoor like you. I like fishing. I like the woods. I like water. I love being around water. It's my thing. Sarah rather shop, go to the shop malls and stuff. So we find a balance. So there are things we do together, but I think it's also giving each other the space to do what they like to do. And it's not like, no, we have to do it together. Sometimes you need that healthy space.
Yes.
Don't we?
That's
in
a
there?
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But our favorite, like my favorite thing to do, is to do something with Glenda.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need other people around. We enjoy being together all the time. We enjoyed working together. Our offices had a secret passageway between them at the college, for decades. And so we really love being
We like
together.
each other.
Yeah.
It's not like we have to have downtime because we can't.
Sure.
But we do have the individual things that we enjoy.
Sure.
That also
But I say to
refreshes.
people in our church, Sarah, we were on the same janitorial team in PBC, from 20, however long that was.
Long time ago.
Time ago. And we were in the same ministry teams in PBC.
Yeah.
We travel together. We still do it today. So before we were married, we were together, and now we're still together. So in many ways, we don't know no other way but being together. And for us, it's probably part of our strength is that sticking with it and walking through difficult times.
Yes.
But enjoying your good moments, enjoying your wins together, and celebrating those times together. Well, there's one more thing our staff put out that I think I can't finish this without pointing to.
Okay.
And whoever put this out, they'll have to see me in the office afterwards. Is these things, you don't do these at PBC no more, do you?
Well, I just have to say, you're the first person from PBC I've ever seen that has one of those framed.
I didn't frame it. It was my staff that did it.
I've never seen one framed before.
I don't know whose signature is on it. Is it your signature?
Now we don't give demerits, we give reminders.
Oh, it says Dean. Is that your signature?
Is that my signature?
Probably.
Whose signature is it?
Oh,
No, that's not my signature. Is that
Kevin Connor?
No.
KJC?
No.
I think KJC.
I can't read the signature.
It would be before.
It'd be in, it's in 94.
It's either Bill Scheidler, I think.
It might be Bill Scheidler or Steve Cole.
Oh, yes. Steve Cole.
It looks like Steve Cole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steve Cole, we need to have a chat.
See, we're friendlier now, so it's just a reminder.
Yeah.
Right, got you.
Yeah, no, we don't hand those out anymore.
But if you get so many reminders, then you have to start paying fees.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so
we
don't
have
campus
fines
you
now,
in the dorm. We let you pay fees.
So monetary motivation.
Yes.
Well, I prefer this one because I think I'll still be paying off my college debt right now. Wow.
Well, we also are, I think, even more pastoral about it than then. That was more of a discipline kind of thing, and you got to just submit and learn. And I think now, like if somebody's getting a few reminders or just not cooperating with the system, then we're going to sit down and have a chat, and we're going to not just talk about their performance, we're going to talk about their motivation, and we're going to try to get into do they want to learn? Do they want to grow? Do they want to change? And if so, how are we going to have a strategy to do that? And so I think we're much better now pastorally and discipleship wise. So we don't have those pink slips anymore.
Hallelujah. Well, it's been a joy talking to you both, and
thank you.
We look forward to this weekend. Tomorrow you're doing the marriage conference. Sunday you're at our church, and in between we're going to feed you loads of food, show you the beautiful city of Leicester. You'll be one of the few Americans that will go back and pronounce it properly. Not Leicester, as most Americans would say.
Leicester. Well, we've practiced.
And it's just a joy to have you here. So thank you so much for recording this with us, and it's a privilege to have you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the rest of the weekend together.
All right, thank you.
Is that a wrap?